Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I am here this afternoon with my bookkeeper, Colleen LeMay of C2 Accounting. Hi, Colleen. And we are
Hello.
here, we're going to talk about why interior designers need bookkeeping. I call it built for them because there's a lot of accounts that they need, and the way it needs to be set up is very specific, different from other businesses. So why don't you walk us through this? This is an important topic.
I agree. It's a topic that's close to my heart. You say, why do interior designers need bookkeeping built for them? I like to say specialized bookkeeping because it sounds a little fancier, a little jazzier. So it doesn't matter if an interior designer is just starting out, like, or if they have a team, if it's just them. Like, they really need this financial foundation that's rock solid. And even though bookkeeping at its core is the same for every business, interior designers have a level of complexity that's on top of like a normal small business that if someone doesn't understand those complexities, it can make things a little challenging for them. So today we're going to talk about, some of the right ways that they can use some specialized bookkeeping to support them and save them a little bit of stress.
Absolutely. All right, get us started. Why is it different?
So here are some of the key differences or the unique things about interior designer bookkeeping. We're talking about project-based income. So, as a most small business owners, like in my business, I'm looking at how is C2 accounting doing overall. But for interior designers, they need to know how is their business doing overall, but they also need to know how is the business doing by each project, because you can, if you're not tracking the profitability on the client or project level, you could be losing money and not really realizing it. And because the work isn't always steady, you have these like ebbs and flows. There's your deposits, there's progress payments, there's retainers, there's like all these different things that having someone on your team that understands those differences and complexities will definitely make things a lot easier.
Yes, I love the project level profitability conversation because we, as a business coach for interior designers, we have a spreadsheet they can download for free called the Profitability Analyzer.
Mhm.
But if it's being done in their QuickBooks at the project level, they don't need an extra spreadsheet,
Yes.
right?
It's
But
one
not
less thing that you
everybody's.
have to track manually.
Exactly. So understanding your systems and how much they can actually do for you, and having a bookkeeper who gets QuickBooks for interior designers, to me, is so important. I send everybody to you.
Now, if you're an interior designer and you're using QuickBooks, QuickBooks can track two ways. If you're invoicing in QuickBooks, then you can actually use their fancy projects feature, right? But most people aren't invoicing in QuickBooks. They're using design files or House Pro or something like Mydoma. So what they have to do is then track on the client level. That's just how the system is built. But once they're actually tracking expenses, so as they're making those cost of goods expenses, they're actually, I don't want to use the word tagging because tagging is something different, but there's a way to assign an expense or a cost of goods sold to a client, and then you can run a profit and loss by client. And that's what you're looking
Love that.
for. Yeah, that's
Love
huge, right? So on
huge.
top of project-based income, there's this vendor relationships, right? That's another complexity for interior designers because you're juggling fabrics and furniture and subs and installers and handyman and like all these other things. There's a lot of moving pieces. And
Yeah.
even if you've priced like your margin on your actual products well, all of those other things can really eat into your profit, right? Like if you didn't figure out how much the guy is going to charge you to hang those curtains, or you didn't budget enough for that, well, now that's coming from your profit. Most likely, you're not going to go back to the client and say, "Well, I thought it was going to cost me $500 to hang the curtains, was really 1,000, so I'm going to need you to kick up another 500." You don't want to do that, right? So knowing how much it is, and it may be that in the beginning, as you're tracking this, that you realize, oh, I'm really not pricing well. But once you have this information under your belt, then you can do some analysis. Then you can make some better decisions going forward and see where you need to change your pricing.
Yeah, and I'll give the example of the shipping and delivery, right? So we recommend
Mhm.
everyone add 18 to 20% at this point, and don't even try to find out for every single piece of furniture what it's going to cost for shipping, delivery, and
Mhm.
storage, right? Let's just charge 18 to 20%. It covers 2 months or 3 months of receivership plus the delivery and the shipping. However, if you've been tracking at the project level on the QuickBooks, you can actually get your real percentage
Exactly.
and start charging accurately or make a decision to make a margin on that or
Right.
not, right?
You
Information
maybe
is not, knowledge is
exactly.
information. Yeah,
You could
it's
be
power.
currently at 18%, and then, like you said, once you start tracking, you're like, "We should be closer to 20," right?
Yes,
And knowing that there will be some projects where your shipping is gonna be more than you charged, and there are gonna be others where you're under, but that you want to average that you're still making money on that. Um,
exactly.
I don't like to see people go back and invoice clients for every little thing, like
I know.
shipping. I do like seeing the flat. I just think it's cleaner. Like if I were your client to not constantly get a barrage of invoices would make me feel way more confident in working with someone. So I love that flat fee. It just
I
feels
mean, think about it. It feels like an amateur if the designer's like, well, the sofa costs $500 for shipping, delivery, and story, and the lamp and the two chairs cost 100, and now you got all these invoices going back and forth. It feels unprofessional. It feels too transactional. And as you get to higher level clients, they don't want that.
right. They're paying for convenience. They're paying for your expertise. They don't want to see all the details. They just
Exactly.
want to know
So
how much is it going to cost me? Here's a check. Get it done. Get it
exactly.
done.
So building their bookkeeping system right actually enhances the client experience also because you'll
It
do it
really
better.
does.
It really
Right.
does. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's sales taxes. And that's just a whole nother thing when it comes to interior designers. Like, when do I charge sales tax? How do I charge sales tax? Is it on services? Is it on product? What if I cross lines? Now, we've had this issue where clients have not told us that they've started a project in another state.
All
Once
the
you
time.
cross lines, there's a whole different set of issues that we need to deal with. So, if you are working with an outsourced bookkeeper, please, please tell them before you cross the state lines, just so that way they can help guide you the right way, and it's less stressful than going back and having to fix things later.
Yeah, because you have to have tax accounts with other municipalities then
You
also
do.
and be submitting to them. So having a bookkeeper who knows what they're doing is very key in that situation as well.
Could I give an example of a story that I have that's directly related to this?
Absolutely.
I have a client, or had past tense, had a client who did a project across state lines, and but when she ordered wholesale like she normally does. Well, the orders were shipped to this other state, and of course, these vendors are doing their own internal reviews, and they realized they didn't have a resale certificate on file for this other state. And that's where she had to go, "We don't have a resale certificate in this other state." And they're like, "Yeah, well,
Mhm.
then you're gonna have to pay sales taxes for those purchases." Now, luckily she did, and she had the funds, but that is just one more thing. And so, of course, they're probably gonna look at her account closely in case she ever changes states again, because they want to make sure that they're not missing out on anything, because they're gonna get audited as well as a vendor, making sure they have all their ducks in a row.
That's right. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of designers work across lines. So
Yeah, especially if you're in a state like New York and you have Connecticut right there, New Jersey right there. If you live in the middle of
Westchester.
a bigger state, maybe not so much, but when you're near the border, it's so easy to just jump across, and so you
Well, yeah,
really
I
need
hate
to
to
make
even
sure.
admit I was an art consultant for 17 years and I did jobs in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and I didn't know this back then.
Yeah, and every state has what's called a sales tax nexus, and we can have a whole another conversation about that. So there are rules, and based on the states, but you need to know like what is the rule before I get started. That way, you're just in compliance and you're not setting yourself up for an
Yes.
audit later on. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're talking about why interior designers have unique bookkeeping needs. We've talked about projects, we've talked about vendors, sales taxes, and then one other thing is client retainers. That's another one that you need to make sure that you're handling properly. And if you don't have accounting software, I don't know how you're managing client retainers. That's a
Well,
hard one.
I don't teach the retainer model, but I know there are people still
There are
doing
people who
it.
still do it though.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
where they're collecting money up front
mhm.
because the client was willing to give it to them, and then they work backwards from that dollar amount. So yes, if
And
you're
if they
using
are
the
doing it, make sure you're tracking it pretty closely. So, here's how having bookkeeping just for interior designers improves their workflow. We talked about client tracking, making sure you're tracking expenses and revenue by the client or the project level, making sure that your systems are set up for not only simplified invoicing, but simplified payment collection. You want to make sure you're removing any kind of friction points that's going to stop the client from getting money into your bank account. Um, I know that some of the design softwares, if you're using a Stripe or something like that as a payment platform, that you're limited to 10,000 or you're limited to this, making sure that you understand what those limitations are before you say, hey, can you pay this $100,000 invoice? And they try to pay by credit card and it won't go through because there's a
Exactly.
limit.
Right.
um, and then accurate job costing. But at the end of the day, it helps us as your bookkeeper close your books faster if we have all this information and all these processes set up in the beginning. And that means we can get your information a lot faster, which means you can have better decision making. It's all about getting that information in to get good information out so that you can then just run your business, that you can design beautiful spaces.
That's really the sense.
That's
Hire
what
a
they want to do. They
bookkeeper.
don't want to deal with this stuff.
Exactly. Hire a
They
bookkeeper
don't.
so that you can actually be the CEO of your business. You can be the lead designer like you want to be. You don't have to be stuck in your books. And you're 100% right. Now, I did my books for a long time. I have messed up my books. Sometimes I've done them right. Sometimes I do them wrong. But when you clean up my books and I know those numbers and I can just run it smoothly, I can make decisions for my business in the day I'm looking at my books, as
Mhm.
opposed to my books are 3 months behind. I don't know exactly where I stand, right? So having a bookkeeper will make sure you are consistent in your bookkeeping, and having them set it up from the beginning and have it set it up right is going to be a powerhouse of information that you can then grow your business properly.
Yes, I agree. And if someone is looking to hire a bookkeeper, um, find out if they've had any experience in the interior design world. Find out also if they've worked with the billing software that you use. So if you use Mydoma design files, find out how have they worked with that software in the past. Because as a bookkeeper, even though I'm not a design files representative, I still get those questions because they're just like, let me just ask my bookkeeper. So you want to have someone that at least knows how to navigate the software so that they can help you when things go wrong, because they inevitably will go wrong when things aren't syncing correctly. Um,
Yes.
and then, this is for every business, but I think for interior designers, especially because you receive funds for client purchases. And as much as you and I both preach about having a separate account to handle client funds versus your
Yeah.
funds, we know that not everyone follows the instructions.
Yes.
So making sure that they are separating that business and personal. So if you don't have a separate client fund, it's even more important to make sure that you're not commingling your personal in there, because you're going to have no idea what's due for clients. It's just gonna
Yeah.
stress you out.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to a designer this week who got on my calendar for a consultation, and I was like, "How do you pay yourself?" And she's like, "Well, when the draw, if there's any extra money at the end of the month." I'm like, "QuickBooks, like payroll, like nothing like that." They just really, newbies sometimes don't understand the nuances and the importance of having a bookkeeper, a QuickBooks, the billing set up properly, submitting taxes when they need to be submitted. Like, they're putting themselves in danger of having so many more hours and penalties and costs to clean things up unless they do it right from the beginning. So do it right from the beginning is what I'm
And
telling
here's
you.
the scary part about the example you just gave about, you said they were looking at how much is left over, I guess, at the
Yeah.
end of
So, for example, if they had a $10,000 interior design job, and at the end of the job they paid for this, that, and the other thing, there was $3,000 left over at the end. They just bring that into their personal account, or a
right.
percentage of that. And I'm like, what are you keeping in your business to run your business? And
Exactly. Or what are you keeping set aside for the sales taxes are gonna be due next month? Or what are you putting
or
aside
income
for
tax
your
that's going
income
to be due
taxes to
in,
do?
in next,
Yeah,
right?
next quarter or something like that. Yeah, so it's really, I know that a lot of people are not just interior designers, they get into business because they love what they do, right? Not necessarily because they really want to run a business.
Yes.
There are some who do, but a lot of people just enjoy what they do and they just want to do it for themselves and they get a kick out of it. But you really have to sometimes take off the designer hat and put on the CEO hat and then go, okay, for this hour a week, I'm CEO. Carlene, not designer Carlene, and I'm really going to focus on the business side of things. And if you just kind of like really just kind of, even if you can just carve out a small amount of time to do that, I think that will help get you right on the right track, as opposed to just, I'll find time here and I'll just do it when I can. If it's not on your calendar, if it's not an appointment, it's just hard to do. It's hard to take
Yes,
off that hat. So
definitely.
do
And
yourself a
everyone has
favor.
to, everyone,
Yeah.
do yourself a favor, get a bookkeeper, call Colleen, get on our calendar. If you haven't set up QuickBooks alongside your interior design software, project management software, you should, because that's going to keep you protected and keep you running your business properly. So we've given tons of tips. If you came in late, please go back and watch from the beginning. You can go over to my YouTube channel, which we give you a link in the description, and go watch all of Colleen's past lives with me or with Leslie, that she gives a ton of bookkeeping and accounting tips for interior designers. So go over and watch them and give her a call.
And in closing, there are a lot of people watching who don't know if they need a bookkeeper. No matter what we say, they're not really sure. Or they have a bookkeeper, but they're not sure if they're getting correct information. Just do a diagnostic review with us, or a QuickBooks review, if you want to call it that. Let us go in and take a look at your books and give you a report of, this is what we see. So you can then understand, are you on the right track? And then maybe these are some of the areas in which you can tweak. So normally our diagnostic review is $4.95, but we're running a special is only $2.50. So
Okay.
yeah, right. I was half off. And so we're hoping that maybe there's someone who's listening today who's kind of worried that maybe they want to just have a diagnostic review so they can have a little peace of mind.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, to me, the most important thing, what we talked about, lots of important things, but the most important thing is to have a bookkeeper you can ask a question to, that you can get an answer in English. And that's what you do. Like a lot of times accountants and bookkeepers talk accounting and bookkeeping lingo,
Yeah.
and you don't understand what they're talking about. Where I want to say, and I've said it to you, like, I'm sorry, this is a dumb question, but, and you never make me feel dumb, or any of my clients. So really important for you guys to feel comfortable with your bookkeeper, so you can literally say, why do I need you?
Yeah.
And they can answer in
Never
English.
a dumb question. If the roles were reversed, if you were in my home and I was asking you questions about fabric and different like furniture styles, I would feel really stupid. Like, I know this is a basic question, but so it's
Right.
just whatever you're good at. This is what I do for a living, so it's okay. No questions done.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, thank you for coming live with us. And we will see you again next month. For all
Next
of you
month.
watching next month, go check out c2-acctg.com above Colleen's head, and get on for a consultation if you need a bookkeeper who you can actually talk to and knows the interior design business. And that's it. I'll talk to you next time. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Have a good one, everyone.